My gold digger daughter replaced me with her stepdad because he was rich. I want to tell you about the 17 months between when she made the announcement and when she came back asking for help, because the 17 months were where I learned what kind of mother I had been and what kind of daughter I had raised. Her name is Sienna. Sienna is 23. Sienna is my only child. Sienna's father is a man named Philip. Philip and I divorced when Sienna was 4. Philip remarried when Sienna was 11. The new wife was a woman named Camille. Camille is wealthy. Camille and Philip live in a house worth $4 million. I have been a single mother for 19 years. I work as a high school guidance counselor. I make $64,000 a year. My house had been the house with homework and chores and nights at home in the public school. Camille's house had been the house with horseback riding lessons on Saturday mornings and ski trips over winter break, and a closet full of designer clothes Sienna kept there. Sienna would come home from a weekend at Camille's house smelling like the expensive laundry soap they used and wearing a new jacket that cost more than my grocery budget for a month. And she would walk into my kitchen and she would sit at the table and she would start her homework. She moved between the two houses like it was normal. She never complained about my house. I believed she was navigating it well. I believed the love in my house was enough to balance out the money in Camille's house. I know now that the truth was more complicated than I was ready to see. The truth was that Sienna was keeping score in a way she did not even know she was keeping score. Then college happened. Sienna got into a good school. The tuition was more than I made in a year. I sat down with Sienna before her freshman year and I said, "Sienna, I have looked at everything I have and I can give you about $10,000 a year. I wish I could do more." Sienna said, "Camille offered to pay the rest." I said, "That is very generous of her." I meant it. So Camille paid all 4 years. And I noticed something during those 4 years that I could not name at the time. During freshman year, Sienna called me 3 or 4 times a week. By senior year, the calls had gone down to every other week. I told myself it was normal. I told myself college kids get busy. But there was something else. When something good happened, the first text went to Camille. The thank you text went to Camille first too. I was getting the second call. I was getting the update after the update. I told myself it made sense because Camille was the one paying. I told myself a lot of things during those years. After graduation, Sienna took a job in the city where Camille and Philip live. Sienna told me about the condo after she had already moved in. She said, "Camille bought me a condo as a graduation gift. It is paid in full." I said, "That is so generous." I did not say what I was feeling. What I was feeling was that every single milestone in my daughter's life was now happening in Camille's orbit. The college was in Camille's name. The job was in Camille's city. The home was Camille's gift. I was 5 hours away in a 3-bedroom house with an empty bedroom that still had Sienna's posters on the wall. Then 3 months into her new job, Sienna called me. Her voice was steady. Her voice was rehearsed. I could tell she had practiced what she was going to say. She said, "Mom, I want to talk to you about something. I am going to be calling Camille Mom from now on." I said, "I am sorry." "What?" Sienna said, "Camille has been more of a mother to me than you have. Camille has been able to support me in ways you have not. The needing has been the difference." I tried to say something. I tried to say, "Sienna, I have been your mother for 21 years. I tried to say I was the one who sat with you when you had fevers and helped you with your science projects." The words would not come out right because my throat was closing. Sienna said, "I have to do this for me." I hung up the phone. I sat on my kitchen floor and I cried for 2 days straight. In one phone call, my daughter had looked at 21 years of me being there and weighted against 12 years of Camille writing checks, and she decided the checks won. The first thing Sienna did was make it public. Sienna posted a long Instagram caption with a photo of her and Camille at some fancy brunch. The caption said, "I have spent years confused about who was actually mothering me. I have figured it out." The caption did not name me. The caption did not have to. Every person who had ever seen me raise Sienna alone for 19 years read that caption and knew who it was about. The caption got over 400 likes. Philip liked it. Philip, the man who had left when Sienna was 4. Camille liked it. Of course Camille liked it. I sat in my living room and I felt something I cannot really describe. It was not anger. It was more like being erased. My mother Adelheid called me the next day. She said, "Honey, I am so sorry. Your father and I saw what Sienna posted. Ebenezer is already saying he wants to drive out there and sit her down." I said, "Mom, please do not. This is between Sienna and me." Adelheid was quiet for a second. Then she said, "I love you. You are a good mother. You have always been a good mother." I held the phone against my ear and I could not say anything back. I just held it there and listened to her breathing, and then I said, "I know, Mom." The silence was the worst part. Sienna did not call me. Sienna did not text me. Not one word for 17 months. Sienna had a birthday during those months. She turned 22. I sent a card. I wrote, "Happy birthday, sweetheart. I love you. I will always love you." I signed it, Mom. I checked my phone for weeks after. Nothing. Christmas came. I sent another card. Nothing came back. The silence was complete. It was like Sienna had decided I was a chapter she had closed. I had to wake up and go to work at the school and sit across from other people's kids and help them figure out their lives while my own daughter had decided I was not worth talking to. I started seeing a therapist about 2 months into the silence. Her name was Dr. Garcia. The first thing Dr. Garcia asked me was what I wanted to work on. I said, "I want to know if I failed my daughter." That was the question. That was the whole thing. Did I fail Sienna? If I had made more money, would she still be calling me Mom? If I had been able to give her the ski trips and the designer clothes and the condo, would she have stayed? I believed the answer was yes. I believed that I had lost my daughter because I had not been rich enough to keep her. Dr. Garcia did not tell me I was wrong right away. She let me sit with that belief for weeks. She let me say it out loud again and again. She asked me questions I did not want to answer. She asked me if a good mother was defined by what she could buy. She asked me if Camille's money was the same thing as Camille's love. It took almost a full year of weekly sessions, and slowly, really slowly, Dr. Garcia helped me get to something solid. She helped me see that I had been the mother I was able to be. She helped me see that the mothering had been good, real, present, consistent. She helped me see that Sienna's rejection was not a report card on my parenting. It was about Sienna's confusion. It was about a young woman who had been given 2 very different models of what caring looks like and had confused the expensive one for the real one. The answer became a foundation. The foundation held me up on the days when I could not hold myself up, but holding is not the same as healing. I still flinched every time I saw a mother and daughter together in public. The flinching was the proof that the wound was still open even if I had learned to walk with it. Then month 17 happened. I was sitting in my living room on a Tuesday night. My phone rang. I looked at the screen and I saw Sienna's name and my whole body went still. She had not called me in 17 months. I picked it up. Then I heard her voice. She said one word. She said, Mom. She had not called me that in 17 months. She had given that word to Camille. And now here it was again, coming through my phone, landing in my ear like a hand reaching out in the dark. I said, Sienna. Then Sienna said, I need help. I need to come home. I said, tell me what is happening. Sienna said, Camille and Dad are getting divorced. It is bad. She said Camille had filed the papers about 3 months ago. Then Sienna said the part that changed everything. She said, Camille has decided I am not her daughter anymore. Camille is taking the condo back. She told me I have 30 days to move out, but that was not even the worst part. Sienna said, Camille is also going after the college money. She wants to be repaid for the full cost of my college education, all 4 years. Her lawyer is saying it was a loan, not a gift. It was never a loan. She never said it was a loan, but now that is what they are calling it. The woman my daughter had chosen over me, the woman my daughter had called her real mother, was now treating my daughter like a line item on a financial statement. Every gift was being taken back. Every act of generosity was being reframed as a transaction. Then Sienna told me about Philip. She said, Dad is not helping. Dad has a girlfriend named Marisa. Dad is moving into Marisa's place. I asked Dad if I could stay with him. Marisa does not want me there. Dad said it was not going to work. Camille was taking everything back. Philip was choosing his girlfriend over his daughter. The real mother Sienna had picked had turned out to be a transaction that expired when the marriage did. And now Sienna was calling me. Now Sienna was saying, Mom. I did not say yes right away. I had been carrying something for 17 months and I needed to say it before I could let her back in. I said, Sienna, I am going to ask you something and I want you to think before you answer. Sienna said, okay. I said, are you coming home because you have nowhere else to go or because you actually want to come home? The phone went quiet. The quiet lasted a long time. Then she said, both. I have nowhere else to go. I am not going to lie about that. But I have also been wanting to come home for about 8 months. The shame stopped me from calling. I have been sitting in that condo for 8 months knowing I was wrong and not being able to pick up the phone. She said, I have been thinking about what I said to you 17 months ago. I have been measuring you by the wrong scale. I valued what Camille gave me over what you gave me because what Camille gave me was visible and what you gave me was not. The not visible was the love. The not visible was you sitting at the kitchen table with me every night. She was crying now. She said, Camille has been treating me like an asset whose value is dropping. That is the exact phrase I keep thinking of. An asset whose value is dropping. That is how she looks at me now. Like I am something she invested in and the return is not worth it anymore. She said, you have never treated me like an asset. You have never made me feel like my value to you was tied to anything other than the fact that I am your daughter. I am so sorry, Mom. Please let me come home. I paused. Not because I was thinking about saying no. I was never going to say no. I paused because I needed a second to let the 17 months settle. I needed a second to feel the foundation that Dr. Garcia had helped me build hold my weight one more time. Then I said, come home. Sienna showed up at my front door at 9:30 that night. She had 2 suitcases and a box of things from the condo. She looked tired. She looked smaller than I remembered. She looked like a 23-year-old who had learned something the hard way. I opened the door and she stood there on the porch and she started crying. I pulled her inside. I held her in the hallway. I held her the way I used to hold her when she was little and scared. I walked her down the hall to her bedroom. The bedroom had not been touched. The bed was made. The posters were still on the wall. The room had been waiting for her for 17 months. Sienna sat on the edge of the bed and she said, you did not change anything. I said, no. She said, why? I said, because it is your room. She cried again. The real work began. It was 8 months of conversations that were uneven and difficult and sometimes painful. Sienna apologized many times and the apologies came in different sizes. Some were specific. She said, I should not have posted that caption. Some were broader. She said, I did not understand what I was throwing away. We talked about money and what money does to the way you see people. Sienna admitted something during one of those conversations that stuck with me. She said she had been keeping score without even knowing she was keeping score. She said ski trips counted, homework help did not, a paid off condo counted, a mother who stayed up until 2 in the morning helping with college application essays did not. She said, the scoring was invisible to me until Camille's love turned out to be conditional and yours turned out to be permanent. That is when I saw what I had been doing. The hardest conversation happened around month 5. We were sitting in the kitchen. It was late. Sienna looked at me and she said, Mom, do you hate me? I looked at my daughter sitting in the same chair she had sat in since she was a little girl. I said, I have never hated you. I have been hurt by you. Those are different things. Sienna started crying. I started crying. And then we just sat there. The silence was different from the 17-month silence. The 17-month silence had been empty. This silence had 2 people in it. This silence was 2 people sitting together and feeling the same thing at the same time. At month 8, Sienna signed a lease on her own apartment. She paid for it with money she had earned and saved herself. On the day she moved out, she handed me a card. She said, read this after I leave. I helped her carry her bags to her car. I watched her drive away. Then I walked back inside and I stood in the doorway of her bedroom and I opened the card. It said, you were always my mom. I was the one who left. Thank you for being home when I came back. I put it on the refrigerator. It is still there. Sienna is 25 now. She calls me regularly. She calls me mom. The relationship we have is not the one we had before. It is better in specific ways. It has had the conversations that the old relationship kept putting off. The putting off had been the weakness. The honesty is the strength. I learned something from Dr. Garcia and from the 17 months and from the 8 months after. Being a good mother does not protect you from being hurt by your child, but it does mean the door is still open when they come back. The door was always open. Sienna just had to walk through it. I am grateful, not for the pain, for what came after.